Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Duluth Pack podcast, Leader of the Pack. As you can tell from my voice, this is not Tom Sega. This is Andrea Johnson with marketing at Duluth Pack. And I just want to let you know, we have heard you all over the last 2 years who have requested for this particular person who we will be interviewing today to be a guest. And we felt it was very fitting to have his episode launch on Duluth Pack's birthday, which is today, December 12th. So a lot to celebrate today. Well, without a further ado, I'm going to let you know our guest is none other than the leader of Duluth Pack, President and CEO Tom Sega. And Tom, before we dive into interviewing you and having you in the hot seat, I just want to do a quick introduction. And so a quick highlight about Tom is that he is a natural born leader, and he is one of the hardest working individuals that I know personally. He's also someone who I respect in numerous ways and ultimately that I look up to. He's an incredible mentor and an all-around a great man. And I'm not just saying these things because he cuts my paycheck and that he's been my boss, but I am honored to work beside you, Tom, for the past 10 plus years. But without a further ado, and blowing too much smoke your way, I want to welcome you, Tom, to your podcast.
Well, holy cow, Andrea! First of all, you're going to make me cry. There, you make me sound like I do a pretty good job. So thank you. And it's really, really odd to be on this side of the microphone. I can promise you that.
Well, it's odd for me too, because I'm usually on the back end. So we're both kind of in the hot seat today, but I know today will be really fun and people are going to be incredibly inspired by your story. And ultimately how you got to the pinnacle of your career today, which is, of course, being the leader of Duluth Pack. But before we get to Duluth Pack, we need to really take a few steps back and let's just, talk about your childhood and where did you grow up, Tom? And what was your childhood like? What were some of your, favorite hobbies, sports, and activities to do?
Well, first, Andrea, I'm humbled that our listeners would actually say, "Hey, we want to learn a little more about the guy who's on the other side of the microphone during our podcast." So thank you to our listeners. But, I grew up with very humble beginnings. I grew up in a family of 6. I have 3 siblings, 2 sisters and a brother. I am the 4th out of 4 kids in 4 years, no twins. Holy cow, what were my parents thinking? My dad was a school teacher, and he was an awesome school teacher. I can't say that enough because he cared about his students so much. It was incredible. And my mother was a stay-home mom until I was in high school. And so we had what was considered, almost like a 1950s Leave It to Beaver upbringing with, you come home from school and you yell, "Mom," at the top of your lungs. And she's like, "Yeah." And I'll tell you, you didn't even answer. You just knew mom was there and there was going to be snacks ready for you. And it was time to change out of your school clothes, put on your play clothes, which that's what we did back in the day, and go outside. And there was no video games. There was literally 3 channels on TV. We could go in and on a rainy day or really cold day and watch Mr. Toot, it was called, which was a clown show. And that was about it. So what did we do? We played outside a ton after school, and then we get involved in lots of other things. For us, it was a lot of outdoors and a lot of sports. So I played baseball, and I played football, and I played hockey. Don't think I was very good at any of the above, but where I maybe excelled was in the outdoors. Passions of mine were camping, hiking, fishing, hunting. And I grew up in a place called Woodland. So pretty much it says that right there, right? Woodland. So it was a small little community out in Duluth, part of Duluth, but a little bedroom community. And there was nothing but woods. I mean, we used to have to fend off the bears every fall in the yard. They would knock your garbages over all the time. We had deer walking through. And I was very fortunate because we had this place called Hartley Field, which it wasn't a field. It was probably well over 1,000 acres of woods. Actually, it was probably many thousands of acres of woods. Had a We called it Hartley Pond, which really was just a small lake. It was a river system that went into Hartley Pond. It was dammed up, so it was a reservoir. And it was crazy because I think back to, 50 years ago, what we were doing at the time, and we would pack a little pup tent, grab our sleeping bags, grab some food, our little knife, maybe a BB gun, and we'd go out in this place and be gone for 3 or 4 days. Our parents didn't have a clue where we were. There was no telephone. And we'd show up a few days later back at home, and we were, we probably ran out of the sandwiches that mom packed for us and whatnot. We were getting hungry, but we would just set up tent and thought we were camping. You might as well have been in the Yukon or in Alaska for all we knew. And we learned so much about the outdoors and fishing. And we used to cook trout that we'd catch in the rivers, in the Hartley River and the Hartley Pond, and cook those for dinner on a stick, and just eat trout and just learn how to make mistakes, how to a pocket knife would close on your hand and lay you wide open. And heck, we didn't go running home. We just said, hopefully we don't bleed to death. So just a great upbringing. I could not ask for a better upbringing. Two parents that supported the daylights out of us, but tons and tons of accountability. If we messed up, you were going to pay for it. You're going to pay dearly for it. And we learned that the hard way by paying dearly. And the funny thing is growing up in a neighborhood like I did, and the times I did, it was heck. If you messed up, and back in the day, we used to get cracked by our dad or mom, and it's like, straighten up. It was nothing compared to what the neighbor guy would do to you if you messed up in his yard. So all the neighborhood parents would hold you accountable to what you were doing and messing around, and keep us in line. And it was always funny because you just hear parents, we're always outside. You'd hear parents yelling and screaming for dinner. You went in, you ate dinner as fast as you could get it down, and then you went back outside until it was dark. And then you came back in, and it was time to get your homework done and get ready for school and, for the next day and all that kind of stuff. So really, I a two-parent family, very supportive of us, holding us accountable. We were not living what I'll call fat on the hog. So if we wanted something, we had to go earn it ourselves or do chores, and had everything we needed, but not a lot of excess, and wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, I think that's a great summary, Tom. And it sounds like you wouldn't change your childhood for anything, and just really great memories. And, as a Duluthian, I know where Woodland is, but maybe for those that aren't as understanding of the Woodland area, do you mind sharing which schools did you attend for elementary, middle, and high school?
So I attended Cobb Middle School. I attended Woodland Junior High School. There you are again. And then Duluth East High School. And it was kind of interesting because from Cobb School to Woodland, there was several other grade schools that poured kids into Woodland. So then the size of the network of your friends grew because you got to know kids that were at all these other grade schools when you went to Woodland. And then when you went from Woodland Junior High School, there was 2 feeder junior high schools that went to Duluth East High School. And that was Woodland Junior and Ordine Junior. And so it's like a 50-50. And so there was a whole new network of friends that you'd get to know once you got to Duluth East. And, now you're a sophomore, so you're a little fish in a big sea at Duluth East High School. To give you the idea, I graduated with a class of exactly 500 students. Decent sized high school.
I think it's probably the biggest high school in the Duluth area, wouldn't you say?
I believe it is. I mean, when I went there, there was 4 actual high schools. One was a private Catholic school. So 4 high schools in Duluth proper. And now it's down to 3 high schools in Duluth proper, one of them being that same private school. And now actually, as of very recent, there's 4 because there's now a second private school that has opened, an academy that is open. So they're back to 4 high schools within the city.
Yeah. Well, awesome. And, thank you for sharing that. And one thing you did mention in talking about your childhood was if you wanted something, you had to go out and work for it. So would you mind sharing with us, what was your first job and how old were you?
Oh boy. So first job, I to be honest, I don't even know how old I was or how young I was, but times were different. And I mean, I was running the lawnmower. I mean, as when I was of the age, old enough and big enough to be able to push the lawnmower. And so we used to mow a ton of other people's lawns. You go up and down the street with your lawnmower, knock on a door and say, "Hey, can I mow your lawn?" And we were probably getting $1 or $2 maybe max to mow somebody's lawn. But it was a scale of economy was different. And then in the winter, we'd be shoveling sidewalks up and down with a big old steel shovel over your shoulder before hockey practice in the winter. And you'd go up and down the streets to shovel sidewalks and driveways manually. No snow blower. I mean, heck, nobody in our neighborhood had snow blowers back then. It was Armstrong. And then at the end of the winter, when the snow would get deep on the homes, we'd go door to door and ask if we could shovel the roofs. We'd go usually in a pair of two of us, and one would carry the ladder and the other guy would carry the two shovels. And we'd see if we could shovel roofs. And I'll never forget one roof we shoveled for a couple, and they gave us $10. And we were up there for hours.
Yeah.
They gave us $10 to split. We had $5 each. And I'm telling you, we thought we won the lottery. We thought we hit the jackpot. It was unbelievable. But that's how we, really made it. As we were mowing lawns and shoveling sidewalks and roofs, and then started very mechanical. Started helping fix some people's things, and then when I was probably 11 years old, 10 years old, really wanted to go to some hockey camps, summer hockey camps. But our family really couldn't afford to send me away to a summer hockey camp. And so I actually, my dad worked it out where I could go and work for the hockey camp, licking envelopes and stamping envelopes and stuffing envelopes to thousands and thousands of boys at the time that wanted to go to these hockey camps. And in order for me to go to it, I had to work it off prior to going to the hockey camp. So when I was there, I really appreciated the camp because it wasn't mom and dad writing a check for the camp, but I had to pay for it by working for it up front. And it really just set in motion for me a work ethic, and our whole family had it, that if you wanted something, you had to go earn it. You had to go do something for it. We had everything we needed as kids, probably not a lot of excess, but if I needed hockey equipment, my parents had it for me. If I needed school stuff and clothes and all that, I had it. But if I wanted a certain bicycle, I was going to have to do something to go earn it and get it. And then when I wanted this certain pair of skates, and I absolutely wanted that pair, and they were the most expensive, best skates made at the time, I had to pitch in and help out and do something for it. And then I had got paper routes. And it was funny because my brother and I had adjacent paper routes to each other. And so they'd come by in a big truck and they wouldn't even stop. They had a guy in the back and he'd throw these bundles of papers out to you as afternoon paper routes. And then you'd grab all the papers, put them in your paper bag. And I used to double bag, so I'd cross them across both shoulders so I could carry more. I wouldn't have to go back and get the bundles. And then my brother and I raced every day. And so we would take off, you'd see, and you're looking at each other, and he's on one corner and I'm on another. And these are competing paper routes. And you take off running, and the first one home won. And so here you are running your paper route as fast as you can go. And this wasn't folding them up and wailing them on the sidewalk. We had to open every mailbox or open every door, put the paper in it, and then go on to the next. And so you'd figure out how to be as efficient as you could. And then in those days, you also had to go collect for your paper route. So you didn't get paid unless people paid for it. You gave them their little stub, and you'd knock on their door at night and say, paper boy, collect. And they'd owe you, $1.50. And it also helped me with negotiating skills because they paid after they got the papers. So you deliver papers for 2 weeks, and then it was collect $1.50. And I remember retired folks negotiating, going, oh, I only have 75 cents extra now. Can I pay you 75 now? Can you come back next week and collect 75 cents more? And then the week after that, I'll get caught up and I'll give you your $1.50. And that's the kind of money we were talking about in the day. And so you learn kind of negotiating skills too, because some people would just, some of them would let it go and all of a sudden they owed you $4. Well, that was big money when you're only collecting $1.50 and you're like, no, can't deliver you the papers, because that came out of my pocket until I collected. So as a paper boy, you paid for the papers up front till you collected and got paid for them. You didn't get paid for them. You didn't get paid. You spent your money. So it taught you business skills and negotiating skills at a young age. So it was a great lesson. And everyone got the paper. So it was door to door to door to door. It was just whether you got the morning paper or the afternoon paper.
It's pretty incredible, Tom. As you were talking about the payment system, it just made me really think it's kind of the old school way of earning commission in a way. I feel like that's kind of the building block of what you would say is how people live off commission today.
It was our own little business. That was your route. And you are expected and held accountable to get every paper in every door every day. And what I ended up doing was paying for one paper a day in case they shorted me. And then if I was short at the end, because it happened at times, if you had extra ones, so be it. But you had an invoice every day in the bundle of papers that you got thrown out of the truck, and it told you how many are there. Now let's say I had 57 or 122, whatever it was. If there was 123 and they're great, you get a free paper. If there was only 121, well, and it was supposed to be 122, I could get paid. Or actually, I wouldn't get charged for that one. I would have to call our route manager and say, hey, I only got 121. You got to take one off there. But my customer would be mad. The last customer on the route would be mad because he didn't get a paper. So I always made sure I had one extra. And I kind of covered that one in case we were short.
I just want to ask, how old were you when you were doing this? In a way, you were running your own business and talking about invoices and all these things that, is
11, 12 years old, 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 in there, had them for days. And then, it's interesting because as you have me talking about this, it was kind of cool because you had morning paper boys and afternoon paper boys. Well, I was never a morning guy, and these guys had to have these papers delivered by, everyone was up at 5:30 in the morning to do their morning paper out. So kids would set an alarm, get up, run their paper route, and then go back and go to bed, before school or whatever. And then you'd have guys who it's like, our family's going on a vacation. Can you cover my route while I'm on vacation? And then I'd be getting up doing their route, and they'd make you a list of addresses. And I remember having to carry an old flashlight because you'd shine it at the address on the house to make sure on theirs you're hitting the right addresses when you're doing their afternoon paper. Because there was a lot of people. You have to remember, there was no social media. There was only 3 stations. There was Walter Cronkite, right? That's when people got their national news. But from local and regional news, people got it through the newspaper, the hard newspaper. It was a thick paper too. And on ad day, I think it was Wednesdays for the afternoon paper and Sundays for the morning paper. Oh my gosh, they were thick and heavy, and it was crazy. But you would just buck it up and make it happen, and everybody got the newspaper, and many of those people got the morning and afternoon both papers.
Oh, wow. It's crazy to think about how much has evolved in such a short amount of time, specifically on the way people are getting news. But, I don't want to jump too far ahead. And I know you had other jobs, obviously, once you got into high school and that kind of thing. But do you?
Yeah, real quick, I worked at a Bridgman's restaurant, started on my 16th birthday because that was the legal age at the time. As a busboy, worked myself up to a cook, which I can cook a heck of a breakfast, but the rest of it I'm not so good at. Bridgman's, then probably the favorite job I've ever had in the world, and I was working two jobs at the time in the summers. Was I got a job at a meat shop, a full service meat counter, learned how to cut meat, learned how to deal with customers, selling everything, a full service, you name it. Learned everything about it, which was an absolute blast for a job, and made a bunch of money there. Actually paid for all my own college working at that place, working tons and tons of hours, and learned a trade where to this day in our deer camps, I process every single deer for everybody. I won't really let them touch it because I become, if you will, pretty anal about it, knowing the art of meat cutting. Probably forgot more than I remember, but I can certainly take care of a deer and big game animals and stuff like that, but have an unbelievable appreciation for what goes into it. And it was a fabulous job.
So what's interesting is there's obviously a lot of different industries that you worked within a time frame of being really young. So you went from obviously newspaper and a little bit of entrepreneur taste in there to, doing the restaurant world, to then going into becoming a butcher. Do you feel like that your childhood and these experiences within work at an early age may have influenced your career choice ultimately?
I don't know if it influenced my career choice, Andrea, as much as it was like, if I want something, I need to work hard for it. Number one. Number two is no excuses. Take your clock, throw it away. You work till the work's done. And it's set in stone for me, a work ethic that, you know what, when I walk in a room, I know I'm not the most intelligent person in that room, but I'll look around the room in many meetings I'm in, even today, and say, I wish you well trying to outwork me. And that's how I was going to be successful, is by putting in the grit, the time, the energy, sacrifice when maybe others didn't want to sacrifice. And that was of my time, my weekends, maybe nights, things like that, to make sure it got done. It got done well, and it was done the best of the abilities.
Yeah. And I think that's also really, really good, just something that people can look into of how can they be better in what they're doing. And what you mentioned is a lot of things you can control, like you can control your work ethic, you can control, what you put in a day and your commitment, all of that. So obviously it shows it's paid off for you, Tom.
Andrea, it's funny, but one of my pet peeves is lazy people, because I've worked hard for where I am. I've worked hard for what I've accomplished, and never ever pretend that I'm the smartest person around, but I'm going to work hard. And when I'm around lazy people, it just absolutely gets under my skin. People who expect a handout, people who are able-bodied and willing to, but unwilling to work hard for something. They want handouts. Oh, I'll tell you what, my blood pressure goes up. I cannot stay in the situation. I have to exit it because I get just frustrated as can be.
Hey, I ditto is what I'll say to that one. But Tom, we talked about your childhood. We talked about, getting through high school, but then now let's go to college. So I know that you did attend college, but can you kind of share, where did you attend? When you started, kind of what was your plan, thinking career wise, and then ultimately what did you end up majoring in?
So I am not a good student. I've always said, if they didn't have labels at the time, but if I think I'm the poster child for ADHD, and didn't realize how debilitating that actually can be. And where it really hit home with me is in college. I really wanted to be a veterinarian. And I figured out very quickly that wasn't going to happen when I got in the sciences and would study my butt off, and I couldn't take a test. I just could not take a test. Everything was multiple choice. You look at A, B, C, and D, and they all look right and they all look wrong. And I was failing out of college. I was like, I'm a horrible student. I don't know what I'm doing in college. You don't know what you're doing. You're dumb. All these things that everyone else is doing well. They study less than me and they're doing well on tests, all those things. And so I was putting in the work and I knew the material. I just couldn't take a test. So I bounced around a little bit and finally found that, and I always knew I was technically savvy. And so industrial engineering became just interesting to me because it's like, hey, maybe here is something that I can do well. Well, numbers work for me like there's no tomorrow. I mean, you take math classes for me and it's like, yeah, whatever. It's pretty simple. And so I switched majors and then I just excelled in school because, I always say do a math equation. I don't care if it's multiple choice or not. Do the math equation. You either did it right or you did it wrong. You look over at A, B, C, and D. If the answer is there, you better circle the one that you just did. If it's not there and you did the problem wrong, you better redo it. Or if you're running out of time, as I usually did, then you'd have to go and start guessing on some of your answers. But I excelled there and just really loved the technical part of things, how things work, how things run. When things break, why did they break? How do you fix them? Things like that. And that's why I ended up getting into heavy industry, because that just is such a passion on how things are working and when they're not working, why aren't they working and how do we get them running or working once again? And that's kind of a prelude to where my career ended up. So graduated college in 4 years. One of the things I'm most proud of is, even though I bounced around a little bit, I had to take some summer school. I worked full time during college. In the summers, I was working 60 to 80 hours a week. During college, I worked, even though I had some pretty big curriculum because I was playing a little catch up from the first couple of quarters. We were on a quarter system. I graduated in 4 years with a degree. And when I graduated college, because I was working my tail off 40 hours a week during college and in the summers a lot more than that, I actually graduated with $158 in my bank account. I had no student debt and I had positive net worth. Now, I will preface that with, I didn't drive a fancy car because I actually bought my car for $175. That put me through 4 years of college. And when I graduated college, I needed to get a better car. So I sold that car for $400. So I profited off it after 4 years. But it was just, I lived on the cheap and graduated from the University of Minnesota, Duluth, and then knew I just had to get into industry somehow.
So do you remember at the time when you graduated, the way the economy was, were jobs incredibly difficult to get? Or was it something that where the times are today, where you can kind of get a job anywhere?
It was incredibly difficult in 1986 to find jobs. Some guys who were graduating with engineering degrees were still tending bar a year later. They could not find a job anywhere. I moved to the Twin Cities, got a job. I knew I had to be in sales. That was going to be it, is in technical sales in industry. And I took my first job with zero salary. I was straight commission. You either sell or you don't eat and you don't pay the rent. And so I knew I had to hustle, and hustle I did.
I mean, talk about getting the fire under the butt, but with that first job and moving to the Twin Cities area, and for those that aren't aware, that's about 2.5 hours south of Duluth, which is a change. It's definitely a change from the Duluth area, but where was your first job and career position?
So my first job was for a small multi-line distributor of filtration equipment. My territory was a third of Minnesota, the southeastern third of Minnesota, the state of Wisconsin, and the eastern half of Iowa. And so I was a road warrior. I just got in the car and I lived out of hotels, and I went to every industry there was. Anyone who had a need for our product line. And in that business, I learned very quickly, you're in the relationship business first. And in sales, you have to build relationships that people like to buy from people that they know. People like to buy from people that they like, and people like to buy from people they trust. So I wanted to get to know people. I wanted to do what it took for people to get to like me. And what I found very quickly is honesty will get you there very quickly. If the answer is no, tell them no. If you don't know the answer, tell them I don't know, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you on this day or this time. And then you make sure you get back to them, even if the answer is still no. And I would rather tell a customer no and disappoint them and still have save face and have them respect you. And then earning that respect from customers, I figured out very quickly. My father gave me advice. The only advice he gave me in business when I first got in it was God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You need to listen twice as much as you talk. And for somebody like me, that's been a struggle my whole career. But I listen to customers and listen to what their needs, their wants. May not be able to deliver on their wants, but we certainly try to deliver on their needs. And I would try to hustle and make as many cold calls as I could. And that's scary. Oh my gosh, that's scary when you're young. Picking up the phone and dialing, it was like picking up the phone and asking my wife out on the first date. You're all sweaty palmed when you start, but then after doing it a few hundred times, you get pretty used to it. And I used to play a game that, I used to call it the 20-to-1 ratio, that for every 20 cold calls I made, I'd pick up 1 new customer. And so when I got a hard no from a customer, they weren't interested in seeing me, talking to me, or our products, I couldn't wait to hang up and dial the next one because I'm one closer to yes. Mm-hmm. And that really motivated me. And then I would get in the car and meet these people and listen to them and take notes and follow up. And I mean, this is at the beginning of faxing. I mean, this is very infancy of computers, no laptops. You had to take notes on everything, and then end up on Friday night back in the Twin Cities, go into the office Saturday and start typing out all your thank yous and whatnot. And this was all dial up, internet. So we couldn't send big documents. I went through the fax and proposals. So just a very different time, but just hustle, hustle, hustle. And it opened me up to an opportunity in the pulp and paper industry, which was 22 years of my career, which I absolutely loved every minute of it.
So that the first, what you're talking about, your first career, out of college, that was not in the pulp and paper industry?
It wasn't, but a lot of my business, it was selling filtration equipment for 2.5 years, but a big chunk because I was in Wisconsin. There's huge paper industry in Wisconsin, and I kept hitting these. I used to say I was a smokestack chaser. That industry. I sold filtration stuff for industry. I'd see a smokestack. I'd hit the turn signal, go in there, and hit the gas to go there and say, "Hey, I'm here." But I started selling tons and tons of stuff to the pulp and paper industry, and it absolutely fascinated me. Absolutely fascinated me that these trees end up getting pulped and then built, put across this big, huge machine. And a few seconds later comes out on a roll down there that's as big as a Mack truck, spooling up paper. And how does all of this work? All of this technology, all of these moving parts and everything just absolutely fascinated my mind and the way I work.
Okay, so then it sounds like in 1989, you started at Grace Dearborn within the pulp and paper industry.
Yes.
And can you talk about, you're still doing sales, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you're doing sales. Can you kind of tell us a little like elevator pitch on what you did a quick, example of the pulp and paper industry, but when you're talking about selling in the pulp and paper industry, well, what are you selling? Because you're not selling trees.
Well, some people do definitely sell trees to them. So where I started was in specialty chemicals. So in paper, there's so many processes that go into it, mechanical processes, but an amazing, unbelievable amount of chemical processes, from the pulping part of it to the paper manufacturing part of it. I worked in specialty chemicals in the paper manufacturing part of it. And it was all started out in microbiocides and polymers and things like that. Now I'm kind of geeking out on chemicals here a little bit, but there's so many processes that go into the slurry that, it's a 99-to-1 ratio of water to pulp when it first starts, and then you get down the other end of the machine a few seconds later and it's a sheet of paper. It's amazing if anyone can ever tour a paper mill to see how this works. But I worked in applications of specialty chemicals as a supplier to the paper mills. And it was a blast. And those paper machines must run 24/7, 365. And when they're not running, they're losing a tremendous amount of money. And we were tasked with being there as a partner, as a supplier to them, because they're buying millions of dollars of our product to make their product, to help them in the troubled times. And when things are working well, know why they're working well technically, and make sure that we were being as efficient and cost effective with our products within those paper mills to do the best job we could for our customer in the most cost effective way to keep their uptime and efficiency on their paper machines running at the highest it possibly could. So there was tons of vendors that helped the machines out, from technical issues, as well as obviously the engineering staffs and the production staffs and the paper mills. It's a fascinating industry. We all use paper and have it all over our desk, and we read on it, and you wrap your Christmas gifts with it, and you just think of all the places, cardboard boxes with all the shipments you get to your house right now. That's all made on these paper machines. People are doing this. This is a really fascinating industry, and I loved every single minute of it. And I had a very large territory, traveled extensively, to the point of 25 plus weeks a year. Yes, God bless my wife, who were married 35 years. She hung in there with me through a lot of travel and being a single mother while I was on the road, because it took a lot of great partnership with my wife to pull it off and be able to travel that much and do what I did for our customers to have a great life. And so it was a fun industry. And Grace Dearborn was a blast. We were kind of a small fish in a big sea, and it was so fun because we were growing at 75% to 100% a year with just an aggressive crew, picking off business from the big boys, and they were getting all mad at us, and it was really a lot of fun. And then that company got sold. So Grace Dearborn got sold to a company named Betts and became Betts Dearborn. And we were still in the paper industry and specialty chemicals. That was around 96, I think, that happened. And it was a rebrand. And it was, we had a bigger breadth of products because it's two competitors coming together, and now we have the synergy of the two together. Early on, when you merge any two big companies, Grace Dearborn was a very large company. Our division was a smaller one. But when you merge two companies, there's some hiccups, and I became the manager over a whole bunch of guys, and we were the company acquired by Betts, so it became Betts Dearborn. I had worked for Dearborn, but I became the manager over a whole bunch of Betts guys, and those were some personal tumultuous times, because you have a bunch of guys who yesterday were your competitors, now they report to you, and so there was took a lot of time to work out some kinks of guys that you competed and took business from and things like that, to build trust, to gain that trust, to get the point across that, hey, we're all in the same team and paddling the canoe in the same direction. And our senior management expects nothing less than that from us. Let's team up, lock arms, and go do a better job and go take business from the rest of our competitors out there, because today, now we are one. And that was for 4 years. So now we're in the year 2000, and we got purchased somewhere in there by a much larger company called Hercules Chemicals. And that was just not a good fit for me, because I worked for specialty chemicals, and that company at the time was a commodity chemical company selling rail cars full of chemicals at a time versus the smaller volumes of specialty things. And it just was not a very good fit for me. And so I ended up getting fired from there. They called it a layoff. I call it a firing, which was a great thing for me. Worked out quite funny because I got a 13-month severance package from that. And after I was terminated later in the same day, I had 4 job offers that day already before the end of the day. Wasn't even looking, but it goes through a relatively small industry pretty quickly. And one of my customers actually begged me to go to work for this other company because they had an opening and they didn't want me leaving the territory, and we had a great relationship. And actually a customer of mine got the interview set up with the vice president of that company, a much larger company, and I'll talk to that in a minute. But I ended up getting a 13-month severance from the first company. So I was paid every other Friday from that company. Got hired from a company named Voith, and I worked for a division called Voith Fabrics, and got paid every other week from them. So for the next 13 months, every single Friday, because the pay periods were opposed to each other, I got a 2-week paycheck. So it worked out pretty well. It was funny because
13 months, Friday was your favorite day of the week.
Definitely for my wife, because 13 months later, when that all ended, she asked me if I could get fired again. And I said, well, it doesn't always work that way. So I went on with a really fun German company named Voith Fabrics. And what we did is we sold to the paper mills fabrics, forming fabrics, press fabrics, and dryer fabrics that the sheet of paper is actually made on through each 3 individual sections of a paper machine, which worked out really, really well for me for the simple fact that I could use a lot of technical skill there, different. It was more mechanical technical skill than the chemical I'd had. But what worked out really well for me is that I had a smaller territory. I went from originally at the tail end in the chemical industry. I mean, I was all over North America and Western Europe, to now I'm in the Midwest, and then I would help out on projects elsewhere. But I was in the Midwest now, so I was a lot closer to home all the time. And it was a lot of fun. So it was a new challenge, a really fun mechanical challenge, and still selling to the customers. I really just love these customers, very loyal customers. Many of them are my personal friends now from that industry. I still get together with these people. I still get together with some of my old competitors in that industry. We just really hit it off. We had hobbies and things outside of work, but just could get together back then because we were competitors. But after I left the industry and came here, heck, we could get together. And so I do get together and still have friendships all over North America and around the world that I keep in contact with on a regular basis, and have a lot of great friendships from that industry that I left 16 plus years ago now. So it was my friends all tell me that it was a great industry to leave when I did, because most of us know the paper industry has shrunk dramatically. And so the market got smaller and smaller and smaller. And it was just hang on to what you already have was really the motto in it the last many years. The negative for me in it is all my buddies who I got into the industry with are now retired, and I'm not. So here I am. So I'm not sure who gets the good end of the stick on that one, but I left the industry 16 plus years ago.
But I think, Tom, knowing your work ethic and just knowing you in general, to have to go in thinking, instead of, wow, look at this growth, to pivot to the mindset of just hold what you can would have been really, really almost detrimental for you.
It would have been tough.
Yeah.
It would have been very difficult. In my friends who were stayed in the industry the rest of their careers just said the last 10, 15 years were just tough.
Yeah.
Tough. I mean, these are guys who were in the industry for 35 to 40 years. And they said that last 10 to 15 years just got really difficult because you're working just as hard as you ever did. and your market is shrinking every day. So it became a grind. It became tough, and a whole different mindset of what we had when we were growth all the time.
Right. And I do want to ask this because I feel like people who don't understand sales can have this misconception about, oh, you get to travel, Tom, all over the world, and you get to go to these fancy dinners and, these wonderful events and these invites and whatever it may be, and I know they're great experiences. However, I feel like you need to clarify to people who aren't educated on the subject of, talk about the hard work that goes into it. Yes, you get to experience those things. We won't take that away from you, but what is sales more than going to a fancy dinner or going somewhere in West?
Well, first of all, that's what people sit and beat their chest and talk about is, hey, I had three steak dinners this week on the company. Yeah, yuck it up. And we get free plane tickets. And we'd never paid for plane tickets because I have so many free points. Well, that's a sacrifice. I got to go deal with broken airplanes and weather issues and all those kind of things because I'm flying all over the place. I burned up 13 company cars in 22 years, 13 different cars at the same time, traveling on airplanes all over the country, staying by yourself in a hotel, sometimes 4 different cities in a week. I mean, there's times when you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and you don't know what direction to turn to get out of bed because you don't know what hotel you're in. Not sleeping well, getting in rental cars, flying, working all day, flying into a new city, getting into an airport at 10, 11, 12 at night, getting a rental car, and then trying to figure out where in the heck is my hotel. So no, it's not all beauty. It's just we grind it out, we do it. And that's what we did for a career. We're not, you don't hear us crying about it. Eating in restaurants, sometimes skipping meals like crazy because I don't have time. I got to get to the airport. I used to say that my best sleep came on airplanes. Leave me alone. I'd put on my headphones, get in a little cocoon, and sleep, curl up in a ball because that place on those airplanes, I just knew that nobody can mess with me. So just leave me alone. I'm going to catch a couple hours of sleep here because in hotels, then you get in the hotel and you're all wound up and you can't sleep at all. And then you got to go to work the next morning, work in an industry where it was dangerous, right? You're on moving machinery and do it all again tomorrow and the same gig tomorrow night, get in a car or get in an airplane and go to the next place. So it's not all glam. You think about when you're on vacation and your flight's delayed and you're going to miss your next one and you're going, this upset my vacation. Well, that upsets my whole week when I'm traveling for business. Right. And so you dealt with it. You learned how to deal with it. I've slept many nights in airports. Just you had to find places with maps without GPS. Where is this paper mill? Where is this hotel? Where is this restaurant? So sure, we entertained. We took customers out for dinner once in a while or had some fun with them. But that's far and few between compared to all the grinding and hard work you put in.
No, makes complete sense. So I have 2 questions before we move on from the pulp and paper industry. One, when you were traveling to countries that maybe English wasn't their first language and you were having to do negotiations or any type of meetings, did you typically have a translator there?
For sure. When we went to another, first of all, the universal language of business is English.
Okay.
And so no matter where you are, for the most part, it's going to be done in English. But when I was in other countries, yes, I would be with somebody from our company who could help translate. One of my friends, Eric Arsenault, from the East Coast of Canada, actually speaks 5 languages fluently. And we'd always make sure Eric was at trade shows because we work for a German company. We might be on the East Coast of Canada where it's French speaking. And you had a bunch of knuckleheads like me that don't speak French or German, who speak only English. And Eric would do all the interpretation for us. And that poor guy, we always made sure we bought him dinner because he was exhausted at the end of the night from doing interpreting.
And I was like, you like to talk. So I'm sure there's a lot that he had to translate.
He would give me the old cut off the throat. Tom, time to stop talking.
And then
Take a breath.
one other question I'm just curious about, when you talked about these pulp and paper industry machines, right? So they're, you know, in the entire building, and you said they're about the size of a Mack truck. So very large in size. Typically, how many individuals were working on one machine at a time?
So first of all, the paper machines were the size of a football field. Some
Okay. Wow.
the rolls of paper that come off them are the size of a Mack truck. And so literally one truck, one semi, if you took a whole roll of paper, they cut it and they do all that. But if you took a roll that comes off some of the big paper machines, the world-class machines, one semi would hold one roll of paper. That's it. I mean, we're talking about some paper machines that make 1,000 tons of paper a day.
Wow.
1,000 tons of paper a day.
It's truly hard to kind of just grasp how much that is. So then how many individuals would be on that machine that was
let's say I'm just thinking of one machine right now. There'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 or 9 people per shift on a paper machine. And that's probably on the high end.
okay.
8 or 9 people on a machine a machine that makes 1,000 tons of paper a day.
You think of it though, I mean, that's like a department in a company, you know, working together as a team. So
Absolutely, because when all hell broke loose on a paper machine, all hell broke loose, and it's all hands on deck.
wow. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I was just really curious. So we're going to now go more into the entrepreneurship side of your life, and your journeys there. So before we talk about Duluth Pack, you have been very open and transparent about being a property owner. Specifically, it was TS Properties Investments back in the day. And just love to talk to you about the Duluth housing at the time when you were owning a bunch of different locations. And can you kind of talk a little bit about that journey and why did you get into it?
Well, for sure, Andrea. First of all, when my kids were born, I was like, how are we going to send these kids to college? My wife and myself decided that one thing we'd like to do, because both my wife and I struggled, and she went on and got her master's degree, and we worked really hard. My wife worked 3 jobs in college, and so while we were in college, and so we decided we wanted to pay for our kids' college educations. How in the heck are we going to pull that off? Because we had a traditional family. My wife gave up her career to be a stay-home mom, which was most noble career ever, if you ask me. And I was going to be the bread earner and go out and work hard that way. Her job was much more difficult than mine, I promise you that. And so we said, how could we, do something to be able to afford our kids to go to college? And so after our oldest was born, I said, maybe we should buy an income property, and then in 18 years, when she's ready for college, we can sell it, we can take out equity out of it and pay for college, do whatever. So it's like, well, that sounds all good and fine, but we ain't got no money. So we're like, where do we do this? So we scrapped together enough money to buy a major league fixer-upper. Major league, well, it was actually couldn't even be licensed. It was being condemned, and bought this house, scrapped together enough for a down payment, bought this house on the cheap, put some money into it, and I worked night and day. My wife came and helped work night and day, turn it around, get it rented. And after we had it rented, it's like, hey, this thing's cash flowing. And cash flowing, for people who don't know it, means that we covered all of our expenses and had $1 to spare at the end of the month. And so we did that, and we're like, hey, that thing's all rented out. That thing's working pretty well. We should do this again. And then we're like, but we don't have any money. And so there's this funny little thing called a contract for deed. And so I go to this guy, and he has a property for sale. And this was, I believe, a 4-bedroom unit, or a 4-unit building. And I said, I'm really interested in your building. I ran the numbers. It's like any business transaction. It either is going to cash flow and make money or it's not. And I said, here's what I think we can afford on it. And he told me he was offended. And I said, well, I'm sorry. Here's my numbers. And here's how I came up with it. And by the way, I have no money. And he kind of laughed at me and he says, well, I'm willing to do a contract for deed, but I need this much down. And I'm like, well, that's great. So what I did is I started building equity in that first house. So I went to the bank and I said, would you give me a loan on the equity I have in this house now, a home equity loan, for, it was like $5,000 or something like that I can pull out of the first home so that I can give the guy a down payment. And then he would cover the rest. He'd be my bank for the mortgage on it, contract for deed. And I think we did a 10-year, like a 20-year amortization with a 10-year balloon. That means I had to pay him off in 10 years in full. But at that time, I'd have equity in the house. I could pull that equity, pay him off, take out, a new mortgage. And so he's like, well, that's fine. I'm willing to do this with that little amount down. It may have been less. It could have been 2,000 or 3,000. I don't remember. And he said, but I'm going to charge you 13% interest.
Wow.
Well, I ran the numbers and it still works. So it's like, okay. And bought another one. Well, he calls me like a month later and he says, hey, I'm selling another one. You want to do that again? I said, I don't have any money for a down payment. I'll finance the whole thing, 13, 14% interest. Okay, same type of deal. He calls me back a month later. I got another one for sale. Now I'm sitting on 4 after like 6 months. I got 4 income properties. And then I was like, well, this is pretty easy. This kind of works out. It's all, a lot of hard work, weekends, mowing lawn, fixing. I'm the plumber. I'm the electrician until it got into bigger things. My wife was the painter. And she was doing the books at the time and I was renting them and collecting rent and yelling at tenants to pay us on time, all that stuff. Well, then we kept just buying more. We ended up with a whole bunch of just a whole mitt full of buildings, a lot of units, and literally kept that until the decision to get into Duluth Pack happened and definitely needed some money and all this. So started liquidating all the income properties. But it taught me, you run your business, right? It either makes money or it doesn't. You either pay your bills or it doesn't. And it makes you be real creative because with income property, with real estate, you can get creative and do a lot of different things. And it taught me a lot of creativity in business. It taught me a lot. Probably the single biggest thing I ever learned from income properties is taxes. And I've learned a lot about accounting because that is truly the foundation of any business is your accounting practices, your building blocks. And so I learned a tremendous amount about accounting and taxes in that business, which has helped me the rest of my career in the businesses that I have. So started liquidating that business and hopefully had enough left for my kids to go to college when that was all done.
Got it. So just to clarify, you were doing this business, this entrepreneurship journey alongside working full-time in the pulp and paper industry, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I was. So there wasn't a lot of free time. That's what I can tell you. But it was great. It was fun. It taught us a tremendous amount, built us a bunch of equity that we otherwise would not have had. And I wouldn't be where I'm sitting today without the equity we had there to become a partner in this company.
That's great. And then, I think what everybody has been wanting to hear from you on in this episode is your journey with Duluth Pack. And obviously this is going to be the meat and potatoes of the conversation today. So Tom, in 2007, I'd like to clarify for people, April 1st, if people don't realize that that's April Fool's Day.
Who's the fool now, Andrea?
You purchased Duluth Pack and you became the leader. However, before that date, I know it took a tremendous amount of time and ultimately you going into your sales psyche and selling yourself to end up owning Duluth Pack. But what truly made you want to buy and become a part of Duluth Pack ultimately? And when did that kind of click for you?
First of all, I was a great customer of Duluth Pack. And my first bag, it's right here. It's probably 30 years old. And while I was traveling crazy amounts, I was buying new briefcases like every 6 months, and I was staying in hotels, so I had overnight bags, and the zippers would break, and I'd replace those every 6 months or a year. And then shaving kits, the zipper would break or a seam would blow out or whatever. And I got sick of buying imported junk. That's just calling it what it is. And a friend said, well, I had a bad experience in an airport where a bag broke. And I said, I'm sick of buying this expensive junk and I got to get a good briefcase. And somebody said, well, go to Duluth Pack. And I'm like, they don't build briefcases. They build canoe packs and outdoor gear. Their briefcases are awesome. So I went and bought a briefcase. I still use it today. It's 30 years old. Yes, it was at the time the most expensive briefcase I ever had. I think it was $178. I thought I was going to die paying for it. But here's the deal. 30 years later, you do the math. $178 divided by 30 years, cheapest bag I've ever owned. I still use it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. You buy it once, you have it for life. And if you look at the investment over time, it's actually incredibly inexpensive.
So what I did was I broke up a shaving bag. So I bought one of those. And then my kids were young and they were in second grade and fifth grade because I've been corrected. And I said, listen, it's time for you to get a good backpack. You don't need these Snoopy ones anymore, these plastic ones. We're going to bring you to the Duluth Pack store. You're going to pick out your backpack, but here's the gig. I know you're small, but I'm getting you what's called the large standard day pack. Yeah, you're going to drown in it in the beginning, but you'll grow into it, I promise you. So pick your color wisely because you will be carrying it a long time. Well, kids are 31 and 29 years old, and they're still using the same backpacks in business now that they got in second and fifth grade, respectively. And that's a testament to quality. That's a testament to premium products, made in America, all that good stuff. I fell in love with this company. I'm an avid hunter. I had gun cases, all kinds of stuff. Well, I was like, man, nobody knows about this place. And I'm kind of a big mouth. So you know what? I need to buy this company. And because I'm the guy who's going to go to the highest mountain every day and scream and yell about it and let people know about it. And I'm passionate and love what this company's about. So I approached them and they said, hey, I'm really interested. Would you guys be interested in selling your company? Because at that point they had like 30 to 50 products in the offering. One color, if you wanted it in another color, it was going to be considered a custom. And we made canoe packs. And that's the market that we really just kind of stick to, even though we have all these briefcases and luggage and purses and all this other stuff. We don't talk about that. We talk about this other stuff. So I was like, no, these customers will love all the rest of the stuff if we just get it in front of them. So met with them. They told me to go away. Being a persistent sales guy, kept coming back. And after 4 years of coming back and just being relentless, finally it was like, hey, get me your resume. I got, gentlemen, my resume, sent it on to the silent partners of the business. They called me within a 24 hours, said we need to meet. A couple days later, we meet at a restaurant at 8 o'clock in the morning, out of town for all of us. We all traveled there. We were going to have a breakfast, a meet and greet, and just see if we were a good fit for each other and what were my intentions and what were their visions of the company. And literally over dinner that night on bar napkins and notebooks, we had formed up a deal for me to come in as operating partner. We were in the restaurant for almost 12 hours. We tipped the waitress very well. And we took up a spot for the whole day and ended up eating dinner there and everything. Framed that all up. They got me some legal information, signed NDAs, got it to their attorneys, my attorneys. And literally 30 days later, here I walk in the door as the new leader, I guess. So you'd say the president of the company, operating partner, and away we go from there. And that happened to be April Fool's Day of 2007. Um, the company needed a lot of work. It was underperforming. It was having some difficulties. So we just rolled up our sleeves, dove in, worked really, really hard. We turned the thing around. I mean, 2008, we were going to be in the money. We were going to get this thing in the black. And September 15th of 08 happens, and holy cow, stock market crashes. We're in the premium market, expensive bags, and things really swizzled south very quickly. In 08 at the end of the year, 09 is a year I would really kind of rather forget in my life. 2010, we got the company in the black and really just chugged along and grew the company and expanded the company. And we have distribution in Europe. We have distribution in Japan. We have dealers all over the United States. We do a tremendous amount of private label business. So we call that private label corporate business. We did no wholesale, virtually zero wholesale when I got here. It's a growth area for us. We have probably 500 logos from other companies that we can put on our bags. So anyone listening, if you have a company and you want to buy our bags with your company logo on them to give to your employees or sales meetings or gifting, you can look us up and at sales@duluthpack.com, I believe it is, or sales@duluthpack.com, and we can definitely get back to you. So we do a tremendous amount of private label, and then we have our awesome website, duluthpack.com. We ship products to all 7 continents, folks. It's crazy, including Antarctica. The people at McMurdo Weather Station love our bags. So we ship there, and then we have one brick and mortar retail store that we own. We call it our flagship store to show off our stuff. It's the most awesome outdoor store. I'm biased, but it really is. We got great people there, and if you're ever in the Duluth area, you need to go through the store. It's just a great experience, and it's a showcase for our products. So we love it. So that's kind of a 16-year fast forward of Duluth Pack, but it's our core values are quality, number one. We are in the premium market of making premium bags, and we do not apologize for being there. Number 3, made in America by our employees. These things are awesome. So we make our bags. If you look inside your bag under the American flag, the person who makes the bag in good old USA signs the bag. And then our 4th core value is a lifetime guarantee for all craftsmanship and hardware. And we get bags back that are 2nd, 3rd generation, roughly once a year. We get one back that's over 100 years old from a family that's been passed through generations. Just needs a little bit of love put into it. Our repair department puts love into it, fixes the bags. If it's a wear and tear issue, we'll fix it. Very nominal fee. If it's a seam, a buckle, a strap, a zipper, anything like that, that's on us. And we fix it for free and ship your bag back to you so you can make more memories.
Well, and Tom, I know that you quickly just went through the fast forward of the last 16 plus years of your career at Duluth Pack. I don't want us to overlook, though, is that a lot of small business in particular do go through struggles. And I think you are a man of great wisdom and obviously experience going through some hard times. And not that I want to keep talking about 2008, 2009 in particular, but during that time frame, a lot of manufacturing companies that were made in America were starting to go overseas. And, one question I do want to ask you is, during that time frame, did you ever consider moving Duluth Pack to manufacturing, to having the manufacturing overseas?
I get asked that question all the time. Great question. The answer is absolutely no. I would have destroyed 125 years of legacy and history and heritage. This company's an American company. This company has been built in America. I've been asked by so many people, oh, I have all the supply chain. I have all the contacts to go and have your stuff made in these other countries. And it's like, thank you, but no thank you, because you know what would happen? You'd make a bunch of money because you'd fly under the cover of darkness. People would still think you're making it here. You're lying to your customers. And then all of a sudden, you're making a whole bunch of margin on your products for 2 years. The customers expect you to be making it here, and they're going to go away and go elsewhere because you've just pulled one over on them that, hey, wait a minute, Duluth Pack was always made in America. So what I can tell you is, under my leadership, this company will be made in America. That's not changing. Have we been enticed to do it? Sure. People all the time will call and say, hey, here we have this supply chain and we can hook you up here and there. No interest.
Mhm.
No interest at all. We make it in America. That's who we are. It's one of our core values. And we can't go changing core values of a company just to chase a profit margin. What we need to do is find more and more customers who actually want quality, want to support American jobs, because guess what? Then we take all of our money and redistribute that within the United States, because that's where we get all of our supplies. So when you buy from us, you're also helping a lot of other companies down the line. You're helping all of our employees first and foremost, but you're also getting one heck of an awesome product. But then downstream from that, we source all of our products here. So guess what we're doing? We're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're spending our money here. So not only helping us, but you're helping a lot of other American manufacturing companies who supply us with what we need, leather, buckles, all the stuff we make to need to make our products. Because what do? We take leather and we take canvas and we take parts and we put labor into it. Good old fashioned American labor, great people to make our bags. And then we come up with these awesome bags.
So right now, the state of the economy isn't great, right? I mean, let's just be frank. It's not ideal. There's potential for a lot more growth. And so there might be a lot of business owners out there, small businesses, even just sole proprietors that are seeking advice on, what do you recommend, Tom, of what you've experienced for those individuals that are maybe feeling these hard times on what to do currently? And I know it's a loaded question, but I guess what advice do you have for those feeling the current effects of the economy?
Well, first of all, we're not immune to it. We sell a very expensive bag that's made in America. It has a premium price tag on it. When the economy's tough, people suck in their belts. So we're not immune from this either. We feel the pains that so many other companies are feeling. I mean, we're coming out of some pretty tumultuous times through 2020, 2021, into 22, that a lot of businesses didn't survive. And that's really sad. These people pour their guts into it, and no different than what we do here. And so we're not immune, as I mentioned, to the pains that go into coming out of tough times. We were forced to close our retail store for close to 12 weeks. We had to shut down our whole factory and lay off literally 95-7% of our employees. We were forced. That was the hand we were dealt. It was horrible. These are awesome people that don't deserve it. And so we pivoted during that time and made medical gowns just to get everyone back, but we never made a penny off it. We didn't make a penny. We were just trying to cover payroll and keep the lights on, like so many other companies. I'm not asking people to feel bad for us. What I am asking people when it comes to something like that is, when you support American companies, whether it's us or anyone else who manufactures in this country, you make a difference. You make a difference. Forget about old Tom. You make a difference to every one of our employees, because when you buy our products, they get paid. We grow the company. We add more infrastructure. We add more people. And so you make a huge difference when you spend your money in America. I can tell you, I'm so American centric, it's pathetic. I search hard to buy American made stuff. And there's times that I will not buy something till I find it in America. I just don't need it that bad, I guess. And I will look, and it's hard. I mean, it is hard, folks, but you know what? You can do it. do it to the best of your abilities. We're just one small company. Sure. Would we like you all to support us? Yeah, of course I would. Right. I'd like everyone to do all their Christmas shopping at Duluth Pack. That would certainly be really nice. And I'm not trying to put on a sales ad here, but that makes a difference for us and our employees, but really all American companies. So right now it's tough. It's really, really tough out there for small businesses that, you know what, we have to pay people well, we have to pay healthcare, we have to pay disability, we have to pay life insurance, we have to do all these things, 401k plans and match them and things like that. And there's a big cost associated with that. We're very proud of that. That's the key is we're very proud of that. We couldn't be more proud of all of our employees and that we do participate in all these things with them and benefits and all those things. There's costs associated with it for us and every other American manufacturer that they don't have to do overseas. So when you're supporting overseas made stuff, they don't do this. And we're just harming our own people and our own economy. So support American made, whether it's our product or anything else out there. Support American jobs and American made. I people think I'm a broken record. I say that so much, but it matters because I know firsthand how darn much it matters.
Amen. So Tom, we know a lot about the Duluth Pack story, and I just want to kind of pivot a little bit and make it a little bit more about you in specific. And you have this fancy title, right? President and CEO. And
cannot stand it.
Right. No, I know. And that's why you always call it the fancy title. And you ask people if anyone else wants to take your title, you will gladly hand it over. But for those wanting to grow within their career, maybe that's eventually a title and a career goal that they want to accomplish. I just want you to be completely transparent. And what have been some of your biggest achievements of being the leader at Duluth Pack?
Boy, that's a great question. Biggest accomplishments would be growing the company and adding more people to the payroll, more American jobs, having this brand carry on. This brand, we're going to be 141 years today. When this is on, we're 101, it's our birthday, 141 years. And so all I am is a caretaker of a legacy for a while, right? Whatever my tenure is at this company, I'm the caretaker of this company. I was there way before I got here and hopefully way after I'm gone. And so I think the accomplishments are that we've been successful. We've been able to grow this company. We've been able to add more employees during our tenure here. And I want to see that continue on a great American legacy company and heritage company. And so that's really, I think, our biggest accomplishments is that we have these great employees and it takes so many to make it work. And everyone has to work arm in arm. There's not one job in this company that's more important than the next because we can't do it without any of them. I always like to say mine's the least important job. I should be the guy who gets, if I'm doing my job correctly, I'm the guy who gets run over by a bus tonight and nothing stops. Everything keeps going. And that's why my job should be leadership. My job should be vision for the future, more than anything else, and probably less day-to-day activities of operations from a day-to-day standpoint. And I would tell people if people are looking for advice and you're younger and you'd like to get in a leadership role at some point, stop chasing the title. You can have mine. You know what? Doesn't impress me. I'll guarantee you, my fancy title does not impress my wife one stinking iota. There you are. She's not impressed by it. All right. I'm still Tom when I come home from work. My favorite title, which I've gotten in the last year and a half, coolest title I've ever had. I've been sales representative. I've always said that is oh my gosh, that is such a great job. Sales representative. But I got the coolest title in the world now, and I never realized it until I got it. Grandpa. Now that's something to be proud of, and that's a cool title. Grandpa. Not president and CEO, whatever. I have a job to do. Everyone else has a job to do, and it's equally as important as every other title there is in a company. So for people trying to work their way up, grind it out, earn it. Don't work hard for a year and think that, oh, I should get the title manager now because I worked for a year. Huh, really? No, it doesn't work that way. Not in the real world. Put your head down, work hard, grind it out. Don't work for a title. Work for a job that you really, really want to do. That's what you should go for, and be happy and satisfied with that title, loving what you do.
And I think that's great advice that you just gave, Tom. And, obviously hearing I want to say the positive side, but then of course there's always a flip side, right? So there's give and take in any job, but with yours, I would say sometimes people overlook that. And what would you say have been some of the biggest obstacles or hurdles for being president CEO of a company?
I think part of it is you get dragged into, we're all problem solvers when you become managers. That's really what we do. We solve problems. Getting dragged into a lot of problems, a lot of issues. People come to you for answers that maybe you don't have. I don't have all the answers. That's why I surround myself with great people. I think that's one of my superpowers, is surrounding myself with a lot of people that are smarter than me, which and many times is not a big challenge. But even with that is just being dragged into things, or people wanting you to be the bad guy and make the tough decisions. And that's what managers are tasked with. That's where you earn your money as a manager. Is anyone can make the easy decisions, the popular decisions. It's when it comes to push comes to shove and you have to make the tough decisions. As managers, that's where you earn your money. And people need to hold themselves accountable. That's the biggest thing. Don't ever point fingers at someone else. Don't. That's not a way to move up in a company or get to where you want to be in a company. Hold yourself accountable above everyone else. Work hard. Keep your nose clean. And after 1 year of hard work, don't act like you should be running the place, because I'm sorry, you shouldn't. You don't have enough. You don't have enough scars yet as young people. Go earn it and work hard. Keep your nose clean.
And then what would you say that you do consciously to motivate the team around you?
I think it's showing up and working hard and having a great attitude, doing something I love every day. I mean, I always tell our employees often, number one, it is not only okay at Duluth Pack to smile and have fun at work, it's actually an expectation that you're going to smile and have fun at work. I'm not saying we go and mess around all day, but go do what you enjoy doing. I mean, why would you want to do something 8 hours or 10 hours a day that you don't enjoy doing? Go do something you enjoy doing. And oh, by the way, it's okay to smile and be nice to people. You know what? Leave your problems at the door. We all have problems. Everybody does. Leave them at the door. Go do a hard day's work. Get paid well. Work way your career to where you will want it to go, and go live your life with your friends and family and loved ones.
That's great advice. I like it. And then, out of curiosity, so we have 1 year until our next birthday at the company. What would you say is a goal that you have for either yourself, your team, or the company that you have as a realistic goal to accomplish within the next year?
Is to get the monkey of that stupid pandemic off the back of our company and every other company that just has made things tough for the last few years. Just get that so far in the rearview mirror we can't even see it again, and get back to what some semblance of what was going on in the world in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and into 20. Whatever that was, let's get back to that, because that was pretty fun. That's the goal. And people will go, okay, great, Tom. Now, what's the plan to get there? We do have a lot of plans in place to get there. And the world has shifted, so we have to shift with it. So that's what we're in the middle of doing, is shifting on where are we going to get back to what I always call the good old days
Got it.
after
Well,
some tough years.
well, you're putting it out there. So I'm going to say as the term is, apparently manifesting it. So I'm sending good juju your way, Tom.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We need all the juju we can get.
So with that though, your entrepreneurship journey did not end at Duluth Pack. It actually excelled your interest in additional American manufacturing. And in 2017, you acquired Spring Creek Outfitters at the time, which is now Spring Creek Manufacturing. So can you kind of talk about what was the interest in buying this other company?
First of all, as I've said, I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree. Yeah, what the hell was I thinking? So I had come up with this crazy idea of taking a whole bunch. As I mentioned earlier, I am an outdoors person, a very avid outdoors person. So I looked at all these different camp saws that were out there, and looked at this one, that one, and this one, and that one, and this one, and that one. And I was like, well, nobody makes the perfect camp saw. They all have issues. So kind of came up with this idea. I could take little bits and from all these different camp saws, the things I loved from them and take that and try to incorporate it into just one. Take all of the things that I really liked about them, incorporate it, and then eliminate all the things I didn't like about each individual one. And came up with an idea for a saw. Went to Spring Creek Outfitters, which was a manufacturing company, had their own brand of really cool outdoor paddle sports gear, and said, hey, could you make this? And they made prototypes. They go, yeah, we can make this and whatnot. And I was thinking, okay, we'll market this. We got, this awesome marketing team at Duluth Pack. We'll make this saw, we'll market it through and sell it through Duluth Pack. And at the tail end of it, they came to me and said, we're probably not going to survive. We're really, really struggling. And it's like, what do you mean you make awesome products? And they said, yeah, we just don't know, the back end business parts of it and the marketing parts and how to sell it and all this. We build great products, but we just don't know how this is. Why don't you buy us? And I'm like, hey, boy. So my son was graduating college right shortly thereafter this conversation started. And so I went to him and I said, how would you like to run your own company? And he's like, oh, that one you're talking about? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, I don't know. Finishing up college. I don't have a job yet. So, I don't know how to run a company. I said, well, I think I kind of do. And I can mentor you. And so we can go together. And that's part of it is my daughter works at Duluth Pack. My son works at Spring Creek. And we had to put some family silos in place, if you will, some hurdles that you don't cross. And so we did that. My daughter and I had done it at Duluth Pack. My son and I had to do it at Spring Creek. That family and friendships are worth a lot more than business. So we had some hard places that we don't cross. And family time's family time, business is business. It's difficult not to cross those lines, but we have to remind each other once in a while not to cross the line. It's time to turn it off. We're not here to open Christmas presents and talk about business at the same time. We need to shut it off and leave it at the door. So we put that in place. My son and I, he's has moved up to now. He is the president of Spring Creek Manufacturing. Bought it on July 1st of 17. He has turned the company around from one that was going to close and close the doors of Scuttly operation to a thriving business that is growing rapidly, is expanding the product offering, that has gotten into a really cool website, and selling the products as well as a ton of wholesale on the products with dealers all over the world, and just having a blast working together. Another American manufacturing company. What does Spring Creek build? They don't build canvas and leather bags. They build anodized aluminum paddle sports accessories, stabilizers for canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, to the product that the company was founded upon, which was a canoe seat yoke. So it works as the most comfortable dang seat you'd ever have in a canoe. And you flip it over, pull the pads apart, and it's the most comfortable canoe yoke that you'll ever portage a canoe or a kayak with. To drop-in seats, to car racks, suction cup racks, do-it-yourself canoe and kayak and stand-up paddleboard racks, to industrial truck racks, for industry, from cantilever big over the cab ones to ones for a small contractor with one pickup truck or a whole fleet of trucks. So just a blast of an industry. Grant is doing a whale of a job there. I mentor him the best I can. We're on the phone either every morning or every evening, and emails back and forth. And I try to get up there once in a while to help him out the best I possibly can. But right now I'm at the point he's got it running like a Swiss watch. So the best thing I can do is just stay out of the way, and let him do what he does. So great company, Spring Creek Manufacturing, springcreek.com. Just a really fun, small, little American-made company. I have a passion about employing Americans and making things in America because the quality of products made in America. Rest assured, folks, call me wrong. Good luck with that. They're going to be better. They're going to be better than products you buy elsewhere.
I mean, it's true. I mean, there's very few other industries, and I would say locations, that are on par with being made in America. And it really just depends on the industry. Like we could say German engineering, right? And we respect, their art that they do, but I would say you get what you pay for. And, working with you, Tom, for the last 10 plus years, it just really opens your eye on like what you invest in. I'm the same as you when it comes to my husband and I. I mean, we're very particular in how we spend our money because it's hard earned money. We work for our money, and we even research where we can find hangers for a closet and making sure we invest in Made in America hangers. So I agree.
It matters. What you're doing there is you're employing people when you buy a few hangers for your closet that are made in America. Most people just, I'm buying hangers. Yeah, whatever. No, when you actually take that extra minute to think about it, research it, buy them, pay a little bit more. You're not going to have to throw them away because they're not going to bend and break and all that stuff like cheap hangers would. And you invested, you made a difference in somebody's life.
Right.
You helped pay somebody's wage. You needed hangers, you might as well buy American ones.
Exactly. And one thing I do want to ask you though, for some reason, you seem to really like buying businesses on the first of the month and really into these Made in America manufacturing businesses that are both based in Minnesota, I'd like to add. So Spring Creek's based in Mountain Iron, about an hour north of Duluth. And then obviously Duluth Pack in Duluth, Minnesota. But they both seem to be on the brink of bankruptcy, which is very interesting. You come on in, you fly in, you do your thing. But what have been your focuses that have been successful for Duluth Pack over your time leading the company that you brought forward to Spring Creek Manufacturing that have also become successful? I would say like what kind of have been those action points for you?
First of all is keep it simple. Business is tough enough. Work is tough enough. We don't need to make it more difficult. Break it down to the X's and O's of business. Break it down to the foundational accounting principles first as a business person. Yes, I bought distressed companies. And maybe that's something that I'm good at, is turning around distressed companies. And because I try to keep it simple, I try to say no frills. I'm a no frills guy. I'm not a fancy guy. And I don't think we need to have all of these fancy frilly things all over companies. Let's put it into the product, right? We don't have big fancy buildings and big fancy offices and everything else. We try to put it into our product at both places. They're industrial manufacturing places, right? We don't need to have all these fancy things. And that's just me. I don't know what else to say. That's just me, is no frills. Break it down. We're going to take care of the needs of the business. We may not be able to take care of every single want of the business. And my managers all know that. when you put together budgets, I'm not going to put my manager's budgets together for them. I'm going to approve them, but I'm going to make them be good business people, right? I'm not putting your budget together because then I'm accountable for your budget. You're not. And I think in business, if you want to be a manager, be accountable. Well, then put your budget together. That's why I'm telling people not to hurry and want to be a manager when you're 25 years old or 24 years old, because what the heck do you know about running budgets and managing people and all that? Learn this stuff. Get that under your belt, and because it's tough. But keep it simple. That's it. I mean, that's where I think that in the turnaround of companies that were distressed is you just got to break it down to the X's and O's. Break it down to the easy bits and pieces. I always say you can eat an elephant, but you can't eat it in one bite. But you can eat an elephant one bite at a time. And it's that simple in business. Every day, you just got to pick away and grind away and make the business a little bit better today than it was this morning. And tomorrow's a new day, and we'll make it even better tomorrow.
And I want to echo you, if you don't mind, Tom, because being a manager for a department that you're my boss, over the years, I very much respect and appreciate that you put so much trust in us as managers to choose the right thing that's best for the company when it comes to creating a budget. And I do want to state, though, creating a budget is extremely difficult because you're incredibly passionate and wanting to, you want to grow, but then you also have to be conservative in your spend because you have to treat it as if it's your own money. And that can be obviously very daunting. But in addition to that, you protect it. So if you get approved, and I have to prove to you, or when I was manager, having to prove to you, hey, this is what I believe we need to invest in and why, and ultimately, how do we get our return? Not everything can have an attainable return, right? Some things you kind of have to gamble at, but you really protect that then as that manager, and you put everything into it because it's not just the boss saying, oh, you have to do this spend, or, oh, that's great, you want to do that, but no. And I just found that to be really just kind of lights that additional fire under your butt that I'm going to make this happen, darn it. And not everything's going to, and there's obviously really good learning lessons in that, but I think it just opens your eyes as a young individual of how much goes on and that you need to be very conservative and spend and very insightful in what you're doing. Because it's very easy and it's very fun to spend other people's money. But when that target's on your back and you're accountable for it, you have to definitely double down and think of, is the juice worth the squeeze in what I'm spending?
I mean, that's a good point you bring, because I always tell all of our managers, number one, if it was your money, would you do that? And what's the return on investment for your expense? Because if you're going to be a good business person, I don't care what department you manage. If you're going to be a good business person, what's the return on investment for your spend? And it doesn't mean we're going to sell 8 more bags.
Right.
That, oh, I spend on Google AdWords $4 and I get $16, that kind of thing. Every department, every expense should have some type of return. And it could be as simple as rent. Well, how do you get a return on investment on rent? I don't know. Maybe we don't need to be in that fancy of a building. We need a place to house people. So what's the best deal we can get to house the people and meet the needs of the people? And so we're just a pretty conservative company that way when it comes to spending money. I'd rather invest it in our people and invest that money in new equipment, new technology, better, safer than fancy frills to say, look at us, we got fancy offices.
Well, and the thing is too, if you go to open to the public as our flagship retail store, and then, I'll say this, it's beautiful. It's one of the coolest stores I've ever been into because there's so much that you can take in from a sensory standpoint. But what I think is very unique is you get the flip side of our factory. And we obviously do free, public tours on scheduling, but we haven't changed much at all with our factory. And we usually hear people really appreciate that because it's a kind of the blast from the past, and they see how Duluth packs are really made, and that it's not machinery. It's not this, fancy white factory where all this technology is involved. It's no, why would we change something if it isn't broken? And honestly, it's made the best. And I think that's always fun. And after we do, an hour and a half tour of people, they're just like, holy moly, I'm a lifelong customer. This is so cool. And I think that just, it doesn't matter if you have the newest or latest, whatever it may be, just know what you're good at and tell the story about it, and people will connect with it.
It's funny, Andrew, because I give a tremendous amount of tours. I'm very proud of this company and proud of the heritage, the legacy. And so I give tours and have a lot of passion for it. And I would say that 99 out of 100 times that people come out of the tour, they're like, oh my gosh, I never knew in a million years this is how many processes going in, and this is how difficult it is to make a bag. And these people do such a good job. They're such great artisans. They go on and on and on raving, and we have lifelong customers then, because they're like, oh, I saw it with my own two eyes. Then you have one jerk who is big muscles behind social media and is, well, I toured your factory and it's old and some of the equipment's old and, it's not perfect and all this other kind of stuff. And you know what is really fun for me? It's like, okay, you keyboard warrior, to watch people who love the way we do it and how we do it, attack those people and shut them down, if you will. Because there's so many people out there that are going to just hate on people to hate on them because they obviously don't like themselves very much. The other 99, oh my gosh, it's so fun to see them light up, to see them go, wait a minute, Tom, you actually know these people by name.
Yeah.
These are real people. You mean I can look up and see inside my bag who made it? Can I meet this person? I mean, how does it get any cooler than that?
Well, I think what was fun, and I'll just say this from a PR standpoint, it was a couple years ago when Good Morning America actually came to Duluth Pack and did that segment. And the bag that was being highlighted, we flipped over the Made in America tag and we saw it was handcrafted by Laura. And the host goes, Laura, are you here? And she was, 25 feet away waving. And I think that's just so fun. And a lot of people I don't know realize that like Duluth Pack's not line work. It's truly someone from start to finish. I mean, there's multiple processes. It might have to go between the sewer to, it goes cutter, sewer to the riveter, back to the sewer, back to the riveter, back to the sewer. I mean, it can be a multiple process thing to make one bag, but ultimately the sewer that starts with it, they end with it. And I think that's a really cool thing. It's a testament to people that, they stand behind the quality, and if they're willing to put their name on it, they're very they have a lot of pride in the work that they do.
Absolutely. That's why they put their name in, is they're proud of what they do. And that wasn't old Tom or Duluth Pack saying, we want you to sign the bag, so if there's something wrong with it, I can come and beat up on you. That's not, no, we have work orders. We can track all that stuff, folks. What it is people who had pride saying, I'm really proud of what I do. Can I sign this bag? And the way we came up with it is under the American flag. They sign and date the bag when they made it. And you know what? You don't get that when you buy something from overseas. You get it when you buy it from America, that people are willing to sign their name to it.
Absolutely.
Couldn't be more proud.
So we're going to go a little bit into like just a quick overview of some philanthropic work. You're a guy that mentioned from the very beginning, you had humble beginnings, and you're very good at giving back and being involved in specifically community things. If you don't mind, I know that you're a current board member of the Lake Superior College here in Duluth. You're also a current board member of your church, which is Peace in Christ Lutheran Church in Hermantown, Minnesota. And you're also a current board member for the University of Wisconsin Superior. So with that, I mean, that just shows you from multiple different facets and organizations and all that. People respect you as an individual, not only as a professional, but personally. But you also had the honor within the last 2 years to be the commencement speaker at a college graduation ceremony, which that's a lot of pressure because that's really like, hey, this is my advice for you. Now go on and flourish. Like what, I guess, like, how did you get into that? Like, how did you get in the mindset of, okay, I'm going to create this speech for these kids seeking advice before they go find careers?
Well, I think that they actually had a lot of people who were just really busy then, and so they got to the bottom of the barrel when they called me. But part of it is, I always said, when you get to the point where you're asked to give a lot of presentations or a commencement speech, or you're asked to be on a lot of boards, just means you're getting old. And with that, I guess wisdom comes and a lot of experience. So what I did was I think that speech, because I've given a lot of them at the different colleges and around to different organizations, but that speech I think was named something like your new beginnings. It all starts now, and it was really around a lot of hard work. That every one of you here just got your diploma, and so that's awesome. Took a lot of hard work to get there. And I can tell by the stands being full there that there's a lot of pride in your families. You did it. You pulled it off. Mom and dad are kind of wiping their brows saying, whoo, we get a pay raise now. They're graduated college. We don't have to pay all this college if parents were paying it. But it was really about be humble, work hard, earn it, be respectful, accountable, all of those things that really you have to do those things every day, and quit pointing the fingers at others. Take all the responsibility, take all the accountability. It's that simple. And guess what? When your buddies are going on a trip this weekend, or your girlfriends are going on a trip or hanging out this weekend, it's like, I'm working on this project at work and it's got deadlines and I got to get it done. You sacrifice. Oh, well, it's a long life, and you sacrifice a little bit now. So I just said, listen, look around you. These are all your competitors. Why should all these people who have companies out here that you're going to go work for, no matter what trade you're in, why should they hire you? Why should they hire you over the person sitting next to you? And so that's really what my speech was about. And I didn't see anyone fall asleep, so I guess that was a success.
So I know you get asked to be on multiple different boards, and you're one human being still working. You have, you value your personal life. So I know you don't want to spread yourself too thin on being, a board member on everything as much as you would like to. But one question with it is, like, why do you get involved in so many philanthropic events, opportunities, organizations?
To give back. It's that simple, to give back. I wish I would have had certain mentors that I was like, man, I wouldn't have had to make all those mistakes that I made. And I made many of them twice. And I wish I would have had some mentors. So that's really what it is on these boards, is to give back to these organizations. And most of those are advisory boards that you go through and look at the curriculums, and you look through what these kids, I call everyone kids now, are going to learn. And in those business schools, is this really what's going to translate into what they really need? Or is it just a bunch of fluff? Mm-hmm. And I always tell them, if you want me on your board or your advisory board, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? Or do you want me to be honest with you? Because if you want me to tell you what you want to hear, I'm not the right guy. I don't know how to do that. But I'm going to tell you what I think. Mm-hmm. And if we can all be adults and professionals here, I'm not here to hurt your feelings. But if I think something's all messed up, I'm going to tell you respectfully.
Right.
But I'll tell you. One of the ones that I said, I don't know if you want me on the board, that was at church. Because that's number one, is at church, it's a nonprofit. Number two, it's a church nonprofit. So there's whole different rules for all of that. And what am I on? The financial board. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to tell you like I see it, as if I was running a business. And so if people aren't going to like that, I'm probably not the guy to be there. And they let me hang around. So I guess some of the input has been pretty good. But to answer your question, you know what? It's to give back. I have some wisdom. I have a boatload of experience, and hopefully I can give back and somebody can learn something from it, or I can help some organization.
I think that's really, really good. Good insight and really, really inspiring. And I know that there's a lot of people that hope to be able to have the accomplishments that you have within their professional and personal career. If you don't mind, before we get into our pack question segment, I don't think I've ever asked you this, Tom, but what would you say to me, personal life, professional, whatever it may be, what is the biggest regret that you have in your life?
Wow.
I know I'm putting you really
Biggest
hot seat today.
regret. I would have to say in my personal life that I traveled so much for business that I missed a lot of things with my family and ended up putting a lot of it on my wife's back, which I carried regret. I have carried, and I probably still continue to carry regret over that. Had great careers, and still I've traveled with Duluth Pack and have traveled extensively, missing things because work takes you away from family and loved ones. And so there's things I miss that I can't ever have back. I worked my butt off to be at as many things as I could, but there's things I missed. I'll give you an example. When my kids were very, very young, we have a video of them. And I was home in bed sleeping, and my wife's taping my kids, and she says, kids, where's daddy? And they just turned around nonchalantly and said, daddy working. And that broke my heart. They used to think I flew on an airplane. That's all I did is fly around in airplanes because they got so used to dropping me off at the airport and picking me up. And so, yeah, I mean, I was gone a lot, and that's a regret that I did miss. I miss things. I miss sporting events. I miss school events. Wasn't there for them if they had a bad day at school at times or whatnot. And didn't go and tell them that, oh, I'm really feeling bad that I'm missing your thing. But that graded on me over all these years.
So one kind of to add on to that, you mentioned all your time that you've had, obviously, at the airport on airplanes. Do you see yourself? So you didn't fly the airplane back then, but do you see yourself getting a pilot's license, maybe potentially as a hobby when you maybe someday do retire?
Dang, I'm probably too old now. They won't give me one. They'll say you're too old to fly. So I did in college, actually. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I knew I couldn't because my eyes were bad. And right when I got into college. So that wasn't going to be something that I could do. But as an elective class, I took went to pilot training as an elective class all those years ago. So I have a tremendous amount of time in a simulator. I took all my schooling, took my ground test, passed my ground test, and then my career started, had kids, and never finished doing the actual flying time. I've flown in a bazillion small airplanes, float planes, different stuff. Would love to. It would have been a blast, but it's something that I'm just going to have to say I had other people sitting next to me flying it, and I wasn't the pilot.
I don't know. Maybe in like 5 or 10 years, Tom will hear, hear that you're pilots.
Well, yeah, but they'll have to bring my wheelchair. I'll walk up to the plane in my walker to get in and fly the thing.
Yeah, that's okay though, because once you get your butt in the seat, you don't have to move.
There you go.
So now we're going to go into the pack question segment. And I know you're very aware of how this goes. So they're going to be kind of rapid fire, but you traveled a lot and, it's been business wise, personal, but where would you say is your favorite place that you have ever traveled to and why?
2 of them. I've been to Hawaii twice with my family. Paradise. Doesn't get any better than that, right? I mean, I've always said that all other southern trips are judged. You might as well throw Hawaii out because it wins. So beautiful, awesome. Can't say enough about it. Great time. I'm also an avid fisher and fisher person and hunter. And I've been able to hunt big game in Alaska and also fish for halibut, salmon, all the different fish in Alaska. And oh my gosh, as a person who hunts and fish, kind of wrecks you for everything else.
What would you say internationally was your favorite travel?
You know, everywhere I've ever been, Andrea, I've always said there's great places and there's not so great places everywhere you go. Um, I mean, there's this country is so cool. I mean, I've been blessed. 49 of the 50 states. I got one to go. New Hampshire. Sorry, my wife and I are coming one of these days, just so I can say I've hit all 50 states. But I got one to go. So the United States is awesome. I mean, I love Canada for its vastness and beauty, and Alaska and all that stuff. But I've also been to big cities. I mean, I love Tokyo. Tokyo, Japan is, I don't remember how many people, like 22, 25 million people in this city that's not that big. And you're in the underground, you know, the tubes and high rises and everything else. But oh my gosh, it's so clean. And the honor of that people have there, and how it's just, I've talked to other people that said, oh, you know, Japan as a whole, as a culture, the honor, but also the cleanliness
Mhm.
is unbelievable. And I've also been able to learn about so much on both ends of it on World War II, because we were not allies
Right.
then. And I've been through the Tokyo World War II Museum. I've been to Hiroshima, and I've been to the museum. It's awful, beautiful but awful, all in
Right.
the same. I've been at the hospital that they detonated the atomic bomb right above. I've been to Pearl Harbor, and so it really taught me so much about both sides of the story, and so much more about what was going on in the world at that time. So been lucky with that. But you know, just everywhere I've been, I mean, you know, been to the UK, been to Europe, been to, you know, it's just beautiful everywhere you go, and you can take it in. Just
You
been
know what?
blessed that way.
I'm sure you have an interest potentially, but even going to Normandy Beach in France would be a
Oh,
lot.
it would for sure. It would for sure.
Wow. And then what would you say is your favorite movie?
Oh, 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 I just, you know, I love Caddyshack. I love Fast Times at Ridgemont High, if you want to talk about ones like that. Those are the ones that just something light like that to make you laugh, that you don't have to think and be stressed out over or anything like that. So I would have to say those two as just goofball movies.
Those are great answers. I'm saying my husband definitely loves Caddyshack. Yeah, that's a great movie. And then as of today, who would you say inspires you the most currently?
Family. That's
Just
simple.
it's all around
Family.
individuals? Yeah.
Family. Just being with my family is just crazy important, and being a grandparent now, and just spending as much time with family as you possibly can, and they inspire me. So it's spending time with them because they inspire me, and to just be with them, and they're just awesome people.
And then what would you say is your biggest fear?
Oh my gosh, easy. Snakes and bats. Big tough guy here has spent tents out in grizzly country, and had bears climb up and stands with them and thump them over the head, and you know, different things like that. Snakes and bats. Woo, can't do it.
Well, say I have personally been around you when there's been a bat that everyone was surprised was there. And Tom, I'm not throwing you under the bus here, but I would say like you're the most like athletic when it comes to running. Like you're just not a sprinter, but I saw you high knees so fast to find coverage, and it was funny. It
You're
was
not the only one who's seen me run away from bats and spiders, for goodness sakes.
oh gosh. And then what
Or
is something
snakes, I mean, not
yeah.
spiders. Snakes. Well, I'll put spiders in there too. I don't like any of those things.
And then what would you say is something you wish people knew about you that they might not?
How much I really care about our employees. I care about them. I care about their well-being. That's what I lose sleep over. I lose sleep over employees. Um, Going through the tough times that companies have. Yeah, that's stressful as can be, but I lose sleep over employees because I care about them. And I care about them doing well and their families doing well. And when they're hurting, I hurt. And I don't think everyone knows that because they see you as the guy that just needs to be tough all the time and be stoic and whatnot. But I hurt with them.
And I'll say this, being able to work with you, I think that's something though, when people are able to, I would say, have the privilege of working side by side with you over time, is that, even as much as you wanted to have personal life not come to work, we're people, right? And sometimes tragedies hit. And I'll say this first and foremost, when I've had difficult times, you've been right there and very understanding and very forgiving on things. And I think that can be, unfortunately, very difficult to find nowadays. But I just want to let you know, as an employee, we do appreciate it. So thank you. And then the last one, drum roll, Tom, is, what is the best piece of life advice you have ever received?
Easy one for me. That one's about as easy as it comes. My dad was my hero, and one of the things he said was, don't you ever let anyone tell you that you cannot do something. You can do anything you put your mind to if you are willing to sacrifice and work hard enough for it. And don't expect a handout. Don't expect it to be easy. In fact, he could add on to that, and he always said, there's two roads with every decision you make, and there's the high road and the low road. Low road's always the easiest one, generally the wrong road. The high road is always the most difficult, has the biggest challenges, but it will almost exclusively be the best way to take it. Make the right decisions. We all know that when we're making decisions, we can make the easy one or the tough one, and make the tough decisions to do the right things. But really, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. If you're willing to sacrifice and work hard, it's kind of my motto.
Great. Well, Tom, your guest time is closing here. I guess, is there anything that you would like to say to our listeners now that you are our guest that maybe you're not able to while you're the host?
Support American companies. Yes, we would love to have you support our companies, but support American companies. Do a little bit of homework, do a little bit of research, because that's how much it matters. If you only knew when you buy American, whether it's your hangers, a bag, or something that you use for a truck rack or sporting, or any other items that you need, search for it. I had on a flannel shirt yesterday, made in America. I had on jeans yesterday, made in America. I mean, that's the kind of thing. You can find it if you're willing to challenge yourself to find it. And I challenge all these listeners to go find and buy more American-made items. You matter, and it matters.
Well, and I'll do a quick plug as the marketing member here at Duluth Pack is, go shop at duluthpack.com, in store, through our corporate dealers, through our private label program or our wholesale. And then, of course, support our friends at Spring Creek Manufacturing at springcreek.com. So, as Tom always says, until next time, folks, and remember to unplug from the indoors and recharge in the outdoors.